I saw Senator Allen back for round two. Agenda item number 4 that has a support recommendation with a bipartisan motion in second. Ready when you are, sir.
I just know how interested this committee is in cannabis issues, and had such a good time talking to you guys last week that I want to come back for more. Appreciate the good work of the committee on this. So our existing law requires the state to establish a unique identification program for cannabis to track product from seed to sale. It's a track and trace system, and it's intended to prevent diversion to an unlicensed market and minimize public health and safety risks in the event of a product recall. Now, law also specifies that a unique identifier must be visible and affixed by cultivators to the base of each plant, usually in the form of a single-use plastic tag. This requirement creates a lot of labor and operational costs for the legitimate cultivators, and then, of course, also millions of pounds of needless plastic waste. Something like 43 million plastic tags at a cost of $15 million in just last year alone, and that's only going to grow. Now, the thing is that it's a totally unnecessary aspect of our system. All individual plant tags are immediately discarded upon harvest, and then the product is batched with these single package tags for the track and trace program. And products only ever trace back to the batch, and the individual plant is never identified. The same batching system is used by the California Farm Bureau, the U.S. Department of Agriculture to track produce in the case of product recalls for other types of things. So this bill will provide some more flexibility to the Department of Cannabis Control to regulate how the plants are identified, to ensure effective enforcement by inspectors and compliance with the law by cultivators, while minimizing wasteful and expensive single-use tags. So I have with me here today Tiffany Devitt, who's the Director of Regulatory Affairs at CannaCraft, and then Jordan Wells with the National Stewardship Action Council.
Thanks so much. Ready when you are. You have 2 minutes each.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Assembly members. I'm Tiffany Devitt, and I represent CannaCraft, which is a vertically integrated cannabis company with a licensed farm in Lake County. This is an individual plastic tag. As the Senator mentioned, our industry is required to zip tag one of these to every single cannabis plant in the state, and they can only be used once on one plant, and then they're thrown away. During the summer plantings, that means that we bring in huge temporary crews to do the backbreaking work of zip tying one of these to every plant in temperatures that are often over 100 degrees. During the fall harvest, we bring those temporary crews back to remove these tags, put them in garbage bags, and haul them off to a landfill. As important as that human toll is the environmental bill. The Senator mentioned that over the past 5 years, the state has used almost 250 million of these tags, which has generated well over 1 million pounds of plastic waste. The biggest tragedy here is these tags do nothing to prevent diversion. And what I mean by that is the only time you don't have to worry about a plant being diverted is when it is in the ground, because it cannot walk away on its own. And yet, that is the only time these tags are on the plant, because as soon as you harvest it, you put it into a big batch, assign a harvest tag, and these are in the garbage. I respectfully ask that you support this common sense bill, which will save the state tens of millions of dollars a year, significantly reduce the cannabis industry's environmental footprint, while improving the operational efficiency of our farms and the working conditions of our employees. And it will do that without diminishing the integrity of your track and trace system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Allen, Chair and members. I am Jordan Wells, Director of Advocacy and Communications at the National Stewardship Action Council, a nonprofit that advocates for a circular and equitable economy. We strongly support SB 622, which will reduce unnecessary single-use plastic currently being produced by California's cannabis cultivation system that does nothing to prevent diversion. The single-use plastic plant tags that currently are required on cannabis plants contaminate the composting system, and composters must ask cannabis cultivators to remove them. This is akin to how composters and their local government partners must ask consumers to remove the plastic stickers from fruit before they are put into the composting stream. Eliminating the mandate to use the redundant and unnecessary single-use plastic plant tags will not only reduce plastic waste and operational costs, but it will also help keep the composting stream clean and free of plastic pollution. California is a leader in reducing single-use plastics, as exemplified by the legislature's enactment of policies such as SB 54. SB 622 is a plastic waste reduction policy that does not compromise the integrity of the state's track and trace program. I want to thank Senator Allen for his leadership, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any primary witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, anybody want to add on in support of the bill?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Alberto Tarico on behalf of the Joint Labor Management Cannabis Committee for San Diego and Imperial Counties in support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Rand Martin on behalf of the parent company in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lee Jenkins on behalf of the California Cannabis Industry Association and Spark in strong support.
Thank you.
Alicia Priego on behalf of the California Cannabis Manufacturers Association and Kiva Confections in support.
Thank you.
Pamela Lopez on behalf of California Normal in support.
Thank you.
Kristen Heidelbach on behalf of UFCW, Western States Council, in support.
Thank you.
Good morning. Janine Coleman representing Origins Council, and we have 800 licensed small cannabis farmers that we represent in very strong support.
Eddie Franco, Director of Policy at NABIS, in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any witnesses who want to add on in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, bring it back to colleagues for any questions or comments. Vice Chair Flora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, I'm just curious, have you thought about using these unique identifiers on food that's prepared at a consumption site?
How long have you been preparing that question?
The whole testimony. I've been so excited.
The bad news, Senator, is we're going to be waiting for Senator Dodd for 15 minutes. So we got a couple of questions. Senator Alanis has a question.
All right.
Thank you, Senator. I think it's a great bill. If there's room for a co-author, I'd like to be part of this.
Thank you. Well,
it just makes sense. Wonder at what point somebody thought that was a good idea to add it to the plant that doesn't even get yanked out or it gets harvested as it's in the ground. So those are very good points. And yeah, I was going to ask the same thing that Assemblymember Flora was going to ask, but it's okay.
All right. Thank you. Well, glad to use a co. Thank you so much, Assemblymember.
Assemblymember Alvarez.
All right, I have a real question. It's more my lack of knowledge of the inspection process, because that's obviously why this was initially, I think, thought it was a good idea. I think your bill makes a ton of sense. I guess the question I would ask is there any risk, or what was the potential risk that maybe you thought about as you were preparing this legislation, and this could be to anybody at the table, of what removing this tag could cause in terms of making sure that this is regulated, and that the department actually focus on inspecting, which I personally believe there's more work to be done to make sure that the black market really is eliminated for those who are doing this the right way, as the folks who you are representing. So can you tell me about how this will not jeopardize those efforts?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and thank you for asking it. So I'm going to get real with you all and tell you a little bit about how product is diverted. I'm not personally doing this, but it's ubiquitous in the industry. One of the ways product is diverted is a cultivator will go in and they will top the plants early in the harvest season. And they'll top the plants, take those materials, usually sell them so that they have enough money to do the actual full harvest. Now, the reason why the tags aren't helpful in that scenario is because the tags are still on the plant. Now, Metric, as a system of track and trace, it requires that the cultivator log it if they have manicured the plant, meaning we have to document each transition, the planting, the flowering, the manicuring, harvesting, etc. So the tags don't help with that. What would help with that is those on-site inspections where the agents just come in, they walk the field, and they see, hey, those look like they've been topped. Does Metric say that you've manicured them? The second and more common way that plants are diverted out of the legal system into the illicit market is through burner distribution licenses. And I'm sure you guys have heard about those. Those are basically licenses that people have and they kind of burn through them, hence the expression, and only use them to kind of provide cover. Now, in that case, a cultivator may sell their materials to a burner distribution license, knowingly or not knowingly, because we don't have visibility into where those materials are going. So the plant tags don't help in that scenario either, because as we discussed previously, the materials are already in a batch. They're not associated with individual plants. With regard to the kind of evolution of Metric, there are certainly ways to improve that system. I do know that once we had to waste out a bunch of plants because we had a pathogen on the farm, and the DCC came and said, we just want to see the plants you wasted and make sure you're not dropping them out the system. So there are those checks and balances in place. They could be improved. You know, you could build algorithms into Metric so that it threw up a flag if someone's yield was way lower than their actual, if they reported a very low yield. You could build an algorithm so if a distributor is taking in a lot of biomass and it's not getting to retail, that triggers it. But those are improvements in Metric that have absolutely nothing to do with the tag.
So thank you. Very well explained. Outside of removing the tag, though, the legislation also authorizes a department to potentially put forward new regulations. Would it be regulations like the ones you're describing, or what has a department shared what they would be looking at doing alternatively?
Okay. So I can't speak for the department, obviously. I would assume that they're looking into some of those algorithmic improvements with regard to Metric. I will say that Metric has a digital tag already. So this is the physical tag. There's a digital corollary that I don't believe the state is planning on getting rid of. So from a practical standpoint, if an enforcement agent or inspector comes to my farm and I say, okay, I have 10 rows, they each have 200 plants, all they have to do is walk one row, count 200 plants, look in Metric, and see that I've assigned 1,000 tags to that farm. So there, between now and some future date, is the DCC evolves the Metric system. All of those safeguards that the physical tags provide, the digital tags also provide it. You won't be losing that under this proposal.
One last question. After the cultivation, when the batches are gathered, does the batch get identified with all the plants that were used in a digital, obviously not in a physical way because these get tossed, but in some digital way?
So the digital tags kind of roll there. It's a transition. So, for example, within the cultivation kind of life cycle, initially the plants are assigned a package tag for like 20 clones, and then you bring them onto the farm and you switch that to a plant tag, and then you take them off the farm and you switch that to a batch tag. So it gets increasingly difficult to track back to the specific clone that you bought. The data is there, not particularly useful.
But it is assigned on this metric system.
Yeah.
From source. Got it. Thank you very much. Appreciate the answer to those questions.
Great. Any additional questions or comments from colleagues? Seeing none. Senator, would you like to close?
Yeah, appreciate the good questions. I'm learning a bit too through this, and thank you for recognizing what we're trying to do here. There's just a lot of unnecessary labor and waste associated with the status quo, and this will create more flexibility in a way that doesn't harm our broader policy goals. And so appreciate your support for this important measure.
Thank you, Senator, and I applaud your continued efforts to reduce plastics waste in California, and I'm happy to support the bill today. Madam Secretary, perfect timing as well. Madam Secretary, please call the vote.
SB 622 Allen, the motion is due pass to the Committee on Appropriations. Berman?
Aye.
Berman, aye. Flora? Flora, aye. Alanis?
Aye.
Alanis, aye. Alvarez?
Aye.
Alvarez, aye. Baines? Baines, aye. Bonta? Chen? Chen, aye. Dixon? Gibson? Grayson? Grayson, aye. Irwin? Jackson? Jackson, aye. Lee? Lee, aye. Lowenthal? Lowenthal, aye. McCarty? McKinner? McKinner, aye. Wen? Wen, aye. Patterson? Patterson, aye. Ting.
Congratulations, that bill is out.
Thank you, members. Thank you.
Thank you very much.